Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Mark. Sun is fixing to set here in Paris, Tennessee at Kentucky Lake, and got the Weather Channel on, and things aren't looking fantastic over there in your neck of the woods in Oklahoma in the studio and more.
No, here, I'm going to throw this up real quick. So those iTunes people that are listening, you're just going to have to flow with it. That is a current shot of the radar from the past, I don't know, couple of hours. Dude, we are getting ready to get absolutely hammered for the first time this year, and they've made a big deal about that we hadn't had a tornado in Oklahoma the entire month of April. Well, it's getting ready to happen in May. In fact, it already has happened in May.
This is the one time I'm glad that I am not a homeowner and that I am not home.
This is true. All right, back-to-back weeks, first time this season. Kentucky Lake, it is a different Kentucky Lake. What can you say about it to kick things off?
And we've talked about this in past shows, Mark, and we've always talked about, it's not as far as the schedule goes, it's not the fact that they're going to the same fisheries, it's that they typically go to the same fisheries at the same type of year. Same time of the year. We saw this back in the kind of mid-2000s, that 06 through 2010 when they went to Kentucky Lake, and it was June and the ledge bite was on, and you had the same guys who understood the current and the shoals and the shell beds, and those fish were out there, and they smoked them. And it was pretty much the same thing, just at a different number to the end of the year. Well, this year's totally different, Mark. Kentucky Lake has been very high. The water is dropping. It's about 3-4 foot above what it is normally in the summer. The current is ripping through it, and it has been getting a ton of pressure from other tournaments. There are two major tournaments that went on this past weekend. Over 200 boats in one, over 100 in the other. Throw in the fact that there are Asian carp now all throughout Kentucky Lake. Water temperatures in the low to mid 60s, fish in all three stages of the spawn. We're going to get some weather as this thing goes on. It makes for a really interesting dynamic for this tournament, to where I'm not sure anybody knows exactly how or where this thing is going to be won.
All right, let's do this. For those people that have been under a rock and really aren't familiar with Kentucky Lake, for the most part, the tournaments that have taken place there, it's been a ledge thing. They get out in the middle of the current, the middle of the lake. Everybody's kind of fighting for their own territory on the ledges. With this being the first week in May, are the ledges going to come into play this week, Matthew?
I've talked to several of the guys who are fishing in this tournament, and also keep in mind that with the schedule, with the back-to-back weeks on Grand Lake and then Kentucky Lake, Bass gave the anglers an extra travel day following the conclusion of Sunday on Grand Lake. So practice actually started on Tuesday and not Monday. So they have Tuesday. Today was the second day of practice. Tomorrow's the final day on Thursday, and then the tournament kicks off on Friday. So these guys are still out there trying to figure it out. Dave Rush is actually at Paris Landing as we speak, talking to the guys as they come off from their second day of practice. But with the cooler water temperatures and the higher water, I don't think, and the anglers that I talked to said you can never rule out shell beds and ledges on Kentucky Lake at any time of the year, but it's not going to be a tournament where you're going to be able to idle outside Paris Landing and see 3/4 of the field doing the exact same things with a football head, a big swim bait, a Carolina rig, and a crankbait. You're going to see guys that are going to be able to make long runs, possibly go down to Barkley, get back in the creeks and the flooded brush, the stumps, that type of thing, and catch fish on reaction baits, catch fish flipping, top water, shallow square bill crankbaits. It's really, it's a Gerald Swindle tournament.
Yeah. Well, is it a KVD tournament? Because once again, we are in position to where the initials in place to win back-to-back events. He's done it before. Who would have thought, with a victory on Grand Lake, going to the next stop, Kentucky Lake, I mean, he's got to be in position to put forth the back-to-back win efforts.
Yeah, KVD has to be feeling good coming into this tournament. Just the way things appear to be setting up going into the tournament, it looks like power fishing is going to play a major role. And can you remember a tournament? I know he's won 25 of them, Mark, where KVD has won or excelled when the water is high, and it's kind of a power flipping reaction bait tournament earlier in the year. Just off the top of my head, I can't.
Well, I think the first victory that he had on the Elite Series at Kentucky Lake, of all places, I think the water was up then. I really do.
So was that what, 2007?
Yeah, but it was a little later though. It wasn't this early.
It was in June.
It was, yeah, and the ledge bite was on. And I just don't know. I mean, obviously you would know better, being there and having talked to some of the guys. I just don't know if that ledge bite is going to set up like it has in the past.
Well, I kind of did a little bit of homework, and Kentucky Lake is kind of going through the same thing that Grand Lake was going through when the Elite Series went there, to where it's just been hammered with big tournaments week after week after week leading up to it. And we kind of saw the weights at Grand get progressively better between the Nichols and the BFLs and the Costa and the Skeeter as it got closer to it. You know, we were like, this thing's about to bust open. The two kind of most recent big tournaments that have taken place on Kentucky Lake is the NBAA National Championship. It's a team tournament. It was a 3-day tournament on the 26th through the 28th, and today's the 2nd, so last week, and it took 58 pounds to win for a 3-day total. The winners had 15-9, then they had 26-11, and then they had 16 pounds. But if you go down to 20th place, it was just 36 pounds. 3-day total, 2 anglers fishing in the boat. And then if you look at the USA Bassin National Tournament Trail, they had a tournament yesterday, I believe.
Well, I think it's this weekend.
Today? It was either today or yesterday.
And it continues. Does it continue? Because somebody on the instant feedback said that thing's going to continue through the weekend.
Yeah, I know there's tournaments this weekend, but it was either yesterday or today. But it was 2167 is leading it, and I think there's around 200 boats in that tournament. But the interesting thing is that 50th place was just 3 fish for 6 pounds, and then you go up, 20th place was 12 pounds. So historically, if you look back at the weights on Kentucky Lake later in May, earlier in June, when those fish get out on the ledges, you see a lot more 20-pound bags, and you see a lot more top end weight towards the field. You'll see a number of teams or number of anglers that get out there on those ledges that can call up to that 20-pound limit. So just looking at the results from these two tournaments that have taken place over the past 5 days on Kentucky Lake, the ledge bite doesn't seem to be the ticket, just based on the drastic weight differences of guys who still caught them. I mean, heck, you look at a top 10 on this one, 10th place wasn't even 15 pounds today.
All right. I'm going to throw it out there. Mark Menendez, a tremendous amount of experience on this body of water. Will his experience come into play this week?
I would think it would have to. He actually did an article over on Bassmaster.com that talks a little bit about it, and he says he thinks it's kind of starting to get primed for it to be right. There's a lot of guys with a lot of history on Kentucky Lake, though, Mark. I mean, this is the 3rd, 4th time we've been here for an Elite Series tournament a little earlier. And then you also have to remember a lot of those guys who made the move from the FLW Tour over the Elite Series have fished on Kentucky Lake a number of their tournaments too. Obviously, Dave Lefebvre posted a victory throwing, a swim bait on some shallow shell stuff and fishing around.
Wesley Strader,
yeah, he's another one. Jacob Wheeler, there's a number of guys. So there's Kentucky Lake. I think going into it, it's similar to Grand. There's not a lot of secrets out here, but right now, I think it's a real interesting bite. I think it could be won like 5 or 6 different ways, all the way. It wouldn't surprise me to see a dude out on the ledge win him based on the guys I've talked to and what I've seen with the lake, but it also wouldn't surprise me if a guy, uses a topwater or flips in some backwater area, chatterbait, crankbait. It's wide open. Like I said, it's a Gerald Swindle tournament, and I'm not saying for Gerald Swindle. I'm just saying if you look at this type of stuff he likes to fish and how he typically does well, one here, one there, get one, then get two, then get three, and not really know where your next bite is coming from. I think that's what we're fixing to see over the next 4 days on Kentucky Lake.
All right, we have to talk about it. The Asian carp situation on Kentucky Lake. A lot of posts on social media, a lot of discussion on message boards. What the hell is going on, Matthew?
Well, I remember the first time I saw those things was below the Lake Decatur Dam in the Sangamon River, and I was fishing for hybrids. I was probably like 20, 21 years old,
yeah.
And these things would come up, and they got the big eyes, and we're like, what the heck? Well, if you follow this at all, it's a big problem, and they are all over Kentucky Lake now. If you follow social media at all, Paul Mueller had one jump in his boat today. John Cruz is posted a bunch of stuff. Gerald Spohr, a bunch of the guys are like out there trying to find fish, I guess, on ledges, shell beds, stuff like that, and it literally blacks out your screen. I was talking to an angler who said, "Man, you'd be like idling out of a cut or out of a creek, and there'd just be 15 or 20 of these things shooting up in the air." And it's obviously a real problem. Now, it's not like the Asian carp got in here; they've been in here for a couple years. It's not like it kills the fish, but it's not good for them. They're still there, but my question is, and I haven't talked to any of them, I kind of want to talk to like Tim Horton or one of those guys, or Kevin Van Dam. Is it a big enough problem to where you could have guys you're trying to go out there and crank, and how do you know what you're looking at? How does it move the bass off of the stuff that they're typically on? Are you snagging these things? Do the bass underneath them leave? How can you differentiate? I just don't know enough about them. I need to talk to some of the guys over the next 2 days or next few days to kind of figure out how it changes specifically those offshore fish.
All right. Did you get a chance to go down to the lake? What's the water clarity look like? Anything that you can tell us as far as the conditions, at least around the Paris area?
Yeah, the water clarity is, if you want to fish kind of stained water, you can fish stained water. If you want to go fish kind of the cleaner stuff, the typical look of Kentucky Lake, you can find that too. There's kind of something for everyone. Like I said, that water's in the low to mid 60s. Kind of the weather that we're expecting to come in, it'll probably climb up kind of mid to upper 60s by the end of the tournament. Few fish on beds, but when you combine it with the current, the stained water in some areas, and the dropping water, it's kind of hard to really get dialed in on that pattern, at least for the guys that I've talked to. Now, there could be someone who's smoking them off of the beds, but as a whole, you're going to have some pre-spawners still, some spawners, some post-spawners, and you can fish in the clear, the muddy. The Kentucky Lake, what is it, 160,000 acres, Mark?
Pretty big.
It's a big lake, so I think you're going to see maybe some guys in the top 12 who make a long run, maybe some guys who stick around, maybe some guys who are offshore. I think this thing is going to be wide open. I think come Sunday, and I could be wrong about this, but come Sunday, out of the 12 guys, or Monday, actually, come Monday, I think out of the 12 guys who are fishing on the final day, I think you'll see 5 different predominant patterns of how those guys got to the final day.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be fun to watch, to see how the guys change throughout the week. I don't think it's going to be one or two things that guys find success on that is going to be the ticket the entire week. I think you might have, just like you said, 4 or 5 different patterns, different techniques that are really, really going to put things into effect as things change. The other thing, too, I showed it at the beginning of the show. We have massive quantities of storms getting ready to roll through Oklahoma, and having already rolled through western Oklahoma. That stuff's headed right where you guys are. And as you know, with that lake running north and south and with the current there, it turns into a very, very challenging situation when you have bad weather to roll through there, especially, Matthew, and I think this is going to come into play, especially for those guys that have made the decision to go to Barkley.
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of kept my eye on the weather. There's a slight chance of rain tomorrow, but definitely the first 2 days of the tournament, you're going to see overcast. I didn't see it if it's supposed to be particularly windy or not, but weather is definitely going to play a factor in this, and then who knows how it's going to change from the time it rolls through Oklahoma by the time it gets out here to Tennessee. I will say that just kind of looking at all this, and I think in our pre-season picks, I think you went Van Dam in this tournament, and I think I went Jacob Wheeler, which are still good picks. Don't get me wrong, especially coming after the tournaments that they are. But you kind of start doing a little sleuthing around, and just based on the way these conditions were, and they were talking now, take the current out of it as much. But the last time they were on kind of a fishery this time of year, a little bit later, it was definitely postponed more into the summer, but the water was up and was slowly dropping, was Lake Texoma in Bass Fest. And you saw what Greg Hackney was able to do with that hack attack jig. And then take into the fact that Hackney is due. I mean, he's coming off. He missed the cut with a 62nd place finish on Grand. Not a great showing on Hartwell. He did have a decent tournament on Lake Martin, but you got to go back to Lake Champlain for the last time that Greg Hackney was in the top 10. And big fish, flipping sticks, tough bite, current. This thing, I think, sets up real nice for Greg Hackney to have a good tournament.
I agree. That was actually mentioned on the instant feedback.
I don't have that pulled up.
Yeah, along with Tommy Biffle, back-to-back event kind of sets up really well, especially with the high water and the experience that Tommy has on Kentucky Lake. All right, a number of questions, Matthew, and you might be able to get some of these answers throughout the week, and then maybe we can do a video or something. This Asian carp thing has really become very interesting to a lot of the fans that aren't really familiar with what's taking place there at Kentucky Lake. A number of people want to know, hey, can they commercially harvest these things and use them for cat food or dog food or whatever? And then also, can they have a bow fishing tournament and actually maybe reduce the population by bow fishing tournaments? And then somebody else actually made the suggestion of, hey, have the guys bring in one Asian carp for a 5-pound bonus and then kill it over on the side.
At bow fishing tournaments, I know they have them all over the place. I don't know if they have them on Kentucky Lake, but there's no way you'll put a dent in that. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these things. Like I said, go to John Cruz's social media and look at the graph, and you kind of get an idea of how many there are there. As far as commercially fishing them, I know that they have tried that. Now, this is all hearsay. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I know there's like one, I want to say, like processing facility, factory, plant something in this area that does Asian carp, and they're working towards trying to get more in. I actually spent like an hour today just kind of researching Asian carp, and dude, I want to try one. The meat looks white. It looks flaky. There's all sorts. They look really good. There's a number of guys who are out there who have recipes for them and stuff. So I kind of want to try one. I guess they are good table fare, but it's kind of a stigma, I guess, that's associated with them. So they're having difficulty trying to get guys like me and you to go.
Not going to be me, dude.
Take Carolyn out on a Saturday night and get the baked Asian carp.
No, not happening. Anything that they use for cat food, not going to happen.
That's what they're doing against. But I know that throughout the country, and actually Gene Gilliland would probably be a great guy to talk to about this, the conservation director for bass, longtime Oklahoma Department of Natural Resources director in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He would know a lot more about them. I just know that they eat. Now, they're not like out down there like chasing down fingerling and fry and stuff like that. I think they eat all of the stuff that all of that fingerling and fry and stuff eat, and all the bait fish eat. They push fish out of the areas, and then it's like the whole circle of life thing. So like the lowest, like the common denominator, they eat all that stuff. So then there's like nothing for the other stuff to eat, and then there's nothing for the bass to eat, and it's just like a slow process of downhill decline.
Yeah. All right. Frank in Michigan wants to know, do you think there'll be a big impact this weekend from the local guys interfering with what the guys are trying to accomplish?
I mean, when we come to Kentucky Lake, you look at these famous fisheries and you come to them in April and May, prime time of the year. There's always going to be local pressure. There's always going to be tournament pressure. I have to do more research on exactly what's going on while the Elite Series guys are out there. But I mean, dude, we kind of talked about how there were 6 weeks leading up to Grand where there were 200 boat tournaments, and those suckers decided to bite the week the Elites were there. And you're talking 200 boats with 2 guys to a boat, pre-practicing 2-3 days, fishing 2 or 3 days, and look what they did there.
Yeah.
You know, look what the Elite Series did there. I mean, Kentucky Lake is a massive lake too, so I'm sure the community holes and the areas and stuff like that. Yeah, there's gonna be locals fishing, but there were locals fishing at Grand. There were locals fishing the last time KVD won on the ledges out here. There were locals fishing when Dave Lefebvre won the FLW Tour out here.
Yeah, good point. All right, Carl wants to know, what are your thoughts on having the final day weigh-in on a Monday? What will the crowds be like?
Crowds are going to suck.
Yeah.
We've done Monday weigh-ins before. The last one we did was when they canceled the day due to high winds at Ross Barnett, and Dustin Cannell beat Kevin Van Dam. They actually had the open trailer that was set up there, and there were maybe 200 people that watched him win. Coupled out with the fact that it's prime fishing time, so if they are biting, everyone's going to want to be out on the lake, kind of what we ran into at Grand Lake this past weekend, and the fact that they've seen these guys before at Kentucky Lake. I don't expect the crowds to be massive any of the days.
Yeah.
And especially if it rains on Saturday or Sunday. But whoever wins on Monday probably won't give a damn.
Well, here's the other thing, too. I will be pat positive here. All right? I'm going to be very, very positive. By having a final day on Monday, I could really expect Bass to have a record number of views for a regular season Elite Series event if it is close and if there are big names on Bassmaster Live. You and I both know, Matthew, during the week, a lot of people, if they're not fishing, obviously they're working. And when there's an event taking place, what are they doing? They're watching what's taking place on Bassmaster Live.
In a perfect world, you've got Van Dam, who's cranking, looking for back-to-back number 26, being chased by Jason Christie, who's looking for redemption after the Grand Lake, and then throw a wild card in there who's catching giants on a frog or a topwater or something like that. And you've got the makings for an epic Bass Live on Monday where you just tell the boss, hey, I ain't getting anything done. And, you know, you get the guys in the boat. So that is an upside there.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break, and then we will come back and kind of give our predictions and touch on a couple other things that I want to hit on. What are your plans tomorrow? Are you going out tomorrow?
I am. Every tournament, well, for the last 8 years now, we go out with an angler who we think is kind of under the radar and might do well on a fishery and kind of document their day. That gives us a better feel of what's going on. So I'll be on the water tomorrow, sitting there watching someone fish for 12 hours.
Very nice. All right, we're going to take a break, come back, wrap things up here on a very stormy evening here in Oklahoma. Matthew, he's live from Kentucky Lake. We'll be right back.
The most versatile fishing machine on Earth. Unparalleled resolution and clarity, with more agility, lightning speed, and brute strength. HDS Carbon takes rapid response performance and screen technology to an all-new level. Maximized power, maximized visibility. See Structure Scan 3D, new dual chirp sonar, new live network sonar, and more mapping options, all at the same time and faster than ever before. depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4-strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white Duckett fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod, one that's truly pro-driven with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duckett Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
When you are on the water, you need performance you can count on. Lowrance has been proving it for more than 60 years. Just ask our pros. HDS Carbon is the choice of champions. The clearest, most visible screens and killer new features like fish reveal and dynamic high visibility contrast ensure you catch more. Now is the ultimate time to get the best deal. Save up to $500 when you buy a qualifying HDS Carbon in the Ultimate Upgrade Sales event before May 31st.
Hey guys, Russ Lane, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. Man, I am so excited to be joining the AFCO Pro staff. They got some really cool, innovative products to help you have a more enjoyable, comfortable day while you're out there on the water. Really stylish, great functional clothing. You're gonna love it. The thing I'm most excited about though is AFCO has pledged to donate 10% of their total profits back to supporting the conservation of our fisheries, and I am all about supporting a company that's about supporting conservation so that we can enjoy our bass fishing for a long time. Check us out, AFCO.
Jacob Wheeler and Tommy Biffle have a lot in common.
Flat bill. The perfect shape.
You gotta love some white tackle.
I know I have a spinning rod.
I love my hammer crawl.
Biffle bug.
Rigged
on a hardhead.
Well, they could be twins. Bifflebug, hammer crawl, hardhead, from Gene LaRue.
Let me help you, man.
Let me help that hat.
Whoa.
There you go. I already looked better.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back. Mark and Matt. I'm in studio. Matthew is live from Kentucky Lake. As we get ready for...
You got like 20 minutes.
I got 20 minutes.
Yeah, before that big red thing that was on the Weather Channel hits more.
I know. I'm looking at the radar right now. It's yeah. There's going to be some hail damage coming here.
Yeah, we also got to get new on-location headsets because this thing's like digging into my ear.
Well, put a pad on it. Wah! Big crybaby. Jeez. You're 1,500 miles away or whatever it is, and you're whining still. Anyway, couple of things real quick. I want to make sure that everybody saw on the main page of BassZone.com, we announced our next one-on-one live. It's going to be Mike McClellan versus Jeff Crete, May 30th on a body of water here in Oklahoma. And it's going to be brought to you by Big Bite Baits and should be interesting. Those two guys, friends for a long time. A little bit of trash talking going on, but very excited to put that event on. And then we are working on rescheduling, obviously, the Christie versus Ayler. Hopefully, Jason Christie this week will bounce back, of which I'm telling you right now, Matthew, I'm putting him on my fantasy team.
There you go. We are also in the super secret high stakes fantasy league against each other. So
this
a little bit of
this week.
Yeah. That's fast.
Oh, yeah. I'm in third place, right?
Yeah.
And I actually had the highest score out of anybody in our group from the Grand Lake event. Is that correct?
It's a 10-person group, so yeah.
It doesn't matter. So I had success, right?
You had success.
All right. Let's talk about picks real quick. I mentioned Jason Christie. Yes, I will be putting him on my fantasy team. I think he bounces back. I know a lot of people are going, what the heck happened to him? Is it classic hangover? It was his home lake. I think he went home. I think he fished some on Lake Tenkiller. I think he's got his act together. And some people might say, Jeffries, you're just sticking up for him. But I think he's going to bounce back in a big way on Kentucky Lake and kind of quiet all the people that want to know what the heck is wrong with Jason Christie.
I'm with you. But I'm not putting him on my team. I think kind of a sneaky good pick, and I'm going to go back to an Alabama River tournament where Steve Kennedy caught him. And you want to talk about high water and moving baits, and there's been tournaments won on a swim bait here. I think Steve Kennedy could be sneaky good here. He understands the TVAs. He understands fluctuating, moving water. He understands how to catch them on Kentucky Lake. And I think he's going to put his junk in the right places to catch them here this week.
All right, my other guy, obviously KVD. I mean, I picked KVD to win this thing when we did our picks at the kickoff show. I'm sticking with KVD, but the other guy that I will be placing on my fantasy team is going to be Mr. Strader, Wesley Strader. A ton of history on that lake. I know he didn't perform that well at Grand Lake, but all of these lakes that are connected to the whole Tennessee River system, he seems to thrive on. He had a ton of experience over on the FLW side, needs to bounce back, and I think he is primed for a good performance on Kentucky Lake.
I'm also interested to see how Edwin does here. He's currently sitting in 58th place in the Toyota Angler of the Year standings, and if you remember the last time we were here, Edwin put a hurting on him. Made the Classic because it was Bass Fest, so you make the Classic with a win there. Won a little bit of extra cash and did really well. So, yeah, those are my guys. I also have Strader. I think Strader fishes on Monday.
Yeah, I agree. All right, anything under the radar? We mentioned on the show that we did Monday when you were still here in studio, there's 30 anglers that are 0 for going into stop number 3. This is really what I call a momentum event. You can either just be really down and really kind of lurking in that zone that you just don't want to exist in, or if you pop a good performance at Kentucky Lake, even though you went 1 for 3, you still kind of set yourself up because of the next 2 stops to really kind of put yourself into position to make the Classic. But if you go 0 for 3 and really, really struggle, then it is an uphill battle. So a lot of guys need to make a move this week, Matthew.
Yeah, reigning and defending Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick, he's in 68th place. He's behind Luke Clausen, and Luke didn't even fish last week.
Yeah, he's done.
He's getting better.
Done for the season.
Brandon is 0 for 2. It'll be interesting to see if he can get back up in the top 50. And if you look at last year's kind of Angler of the Year race, not a lot of guys off to a great start, with Jason Christie in 74th and Bobby Lane. He's there in the bottom. Jacob Wheeler in 53rd. Todd Faircloth in 45th. So I agree. The back-to-back weeks, if you can string together a good Grand Lake and then a good this week, you get the 1 week off, and then you kind of go into the next stretch, headed to an unknown down in Texas for Bass Fest. But if you start out 0 for 3 and then head down to Austin on a lake that you haven't fished before and obviously haven't been able to get any information for the past year, you probably start to feel a little nervous.
Yeah, I agree. All right, should be a good week, should be an entertaining week, should be a learning week. People that love this game should really enjoy the opportunity to learn so many different techniques and so many different patterns this week, because I just truly believe it's not going to be one way this week, Matthew.
No, I think I will be watching Bass Live a lot because I think it'll be pretty cool on how it goes down. I don't know how it's going to go down. That's why I'm going to be watching.
All right, man. Tomorrow, a big day for me, folks. Going under the knife. 7:30 a.m. Have to be at the surgery center getting the rotator cuff in the right shoulder fixed tomorrow. I can't wait for rehab on that. They said rehab is somewhat difficult, but we'll see. Hopefully I will be able to do a show on Tuesday when you make it back. Tuesday or Wednesday, because you're not coming back till what? Probably Tuesday?
Tuesday night.
Yeah, so we'll probably do a show on Wednesday then, wrap up Kentucky Lake. So you may have to punch buttons there, Matthew.
I think you'll be able to handle it. I'm just surprised you haven't used the old sore shoulder for our one-on-one. I'm impressed. I got to give you props. You didn't use that as an excuse.
I got my butt kicked, as always. One of these years.
I'm just saying, hey man, I wanted to flip, but it just wouldn't let me. Wouldn't let me do it.
No. So about a 2-hour surgery tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
Good luck. Did they put you under? Or
yeah. Oh, are you kidding me, dude?
On a towel?
No. It's I mean, it's kind of gross what they do, and plus they're scraping off bone spurs, and I got just a massive quantity of scar tissue in there from playing baseball. So yeah, it's
Is it true that in 54 years of life you've never taken any prescription painkillers?
That is true.
Never.
Not one
and you're
time.
You're going to get through this 2-hour scope and reconstructive surgery just on, what, wheatgrass?
No painkillers, man. Don't believe in them. Tylenol, that's it.
That's a painkiller, but not a prescription painkiller.
Right. No prescription meds. Zero.
Holistic. Is that called holistic?
Alternative? I don't know.
Methods?
Meditation? So hopefully everything will be good tomorrow, and we will be back live on Wednesday. So enjoy the coverage that Matt and Dave will have. Make sure you check out Duck It on Tour over on duckitfishing.com and on the Bass Zone. Pretty cool stuff with Kelly Jordan. And then Matthew, be safe, and we will talk to you soon. We will be live on Wednesday.
Thanks, dude.
All right, man. Everybody,
good luck
be
tomorrow.
safe. Thanks, man. Everybody be safe. We will talk to you on Wednesday.